Hello and welcome to the program which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 122 verse 1 and 2 from the New King James Bible says this: I was glad when they said to me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. Now this week is the prayer for peace and tolerance in the path of Charlie Kirk at the Temple Mount. Now Gidon, you're part of Root Source and sponsoring this event. Why did you want to do this?
That's really a simple question, because as soon as any person of faith and of tolerance really heard of the horrendous assassination of Charlie Kirk, we all thought, what can we do? So many of us didn't think what we could do. We were just like a deer in the headlights, shocked at what happened, and that is understandable. But we Israelis like to do things, and I have been an activist on the Temple Mount for decades, really. And my son is the deputy director of Biyadenu, which means in our hands, to return to the Temple Mount. And so I'm active also in that organization. And another activist came out with this idea that it is important for us to commemorate Charlie's legacy, and no better place to do that on the Temple Mount itself.
So what are you going to be doing when you're up there?
First of all, we are going to be led by Rabbi Yehuda Glick, who is a very important Temple Mount activist. And Yehuda Glick, of course, you've probably interviewed him, and he had been a Knesset member himself. As I mentioned, not a lifetime, but for about 40 years, he's been an activist on the Temple Mount, and he himself was also shot in an assassination attempt. And incredibly, miraculously, he was under sedation in a coma for 10 days, but he came back, and today he is completely well. And this was, of course, the thing that we were all praying about the moment that we heard of Charlie's assassination, but unfortunately it was not meant to be. So we will gather at the entrance of the Temple Mount, and we will go up together, and we will do a circuit around the Temple Mount, like so many people do all the time. When we are on the Temple Mount, we will pray, we will sing psalms, and a few people will talk of their personal relationship of Charlie Kirk, and we will hope and pray that from this spot, not where we're being interviewed right now, but on the spot of the Temple Mount, where God promised King Solomon that all prayers of all people of the world can go straight up to him and be heard, we will be praying that our prayers will be heard. That is what is going to happen on the Temple Mount itself. It'll be probably about a 45-minute event, starting at 1:30 p.m. Israel time and 6:30 a.m. Eastern Coast in the United States time. 1:30 p.m. Israel time, but it will also be live streamed at the same time at the Biyadenu site. That's Beyaden with an U at the end, I think. Beyadenu.org. You might have it written down here so you can say it. So go to Beyadenu.org and register for this event. Even if you don't end up showing up, then you will at least be on their list, and they will be able to send you the recording of the event.
How shocked were you when you heard this news?
At first, I was more hopeful than shocked, because so often we hear of people having an assassination attempt on them. I at first thought of President Trump, of course, who, as soon as we heard this, we said, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But he got out of it, but it was unfortunately only a few hours. It's not really a few hours. I only heard about it when I woke up in the morning, because it happened about noon United States time. That was already about 10 o'clock at night Israel time. So I slept through it, and I opened up my WhatsApp groups at about 5 o'clock in the morning my time, and I saw the first breaking news: Charlie Kirk has been shot. And that, of course, woke me up very quickly. But then as I scrolled through the rest of my messages, it said how he's shot, he's under sedation, it's pray for him, until I finally saw the news, unfortunately, that he was shot and killed. I'm pretty sure that happened even before my morning prayers, so I had what to pray about this morning. It was horrific.
Does it remind you of Kennedy being assassinated?
We're all a little bit in the state of shock, and John F. Kennedy was shot when I was 2 months old. Not far from this time, Charlie Kirk was murdered in September 2025, but John F. Kennedy was murdered in November 1963, and I was born in September 1963, so I don't remember where I was when Kennedy was shot, but of course that is something that everybody knows about. Where were you when Kennedy was shot? And as much as everybody says the days were better then about any time, but it seems that, at least in our collective memory, that was tremendously shocking, and the entire nation got together and said, this must not happen. But today, unfortunately, due to social media trolls, and really I don't have a word for the horrific kind of people who hide behind anonymity, they are just so horrific that a person's life has been taken, a young widow and 2 young children are left, and millions of people are bereft. This person was murdered because of his ideas, which is, of course, unacceptable, but I think mostly because he was a person who engaged in calm debate. You don't have to watch a lot of his videos to see how he stayed calm no matter who he was talking to, and that is something that we are losing, and unfortunately we've lost now with Charlie's death. I am praying that God will lift up many people to take the reins where Charlie has fallen, and continue not to promote his value system as much as to promote the main value that he promoted, which is we must all, even though we disagree with each other, live with each other and respect each other. That is what I have learned from this.
Are you shocked that some people are celebrating his death?
Like I said, I've seen this along. It's very sad that people are doing that, and I'm not trying to change their opinions, but I'm praying for the people who are in the middle, do not have strong opinions, and are open to that kind of harsh and hateful teaching. It's really a teaching, and whether they like it or not, they are being impacted by it. And I'm praying that this will be more of a wake-up shot to them, that they will say, I cannot partner with people who have anything but compassion for the family and the friends, and certainly for the life of 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, who was murdered before the prime of his life.
Was he a lover of Israel?
Oh, very, very much so. And that is why we are doing this, because we recognize that he loved Israel so much. He visited Israel many times. He supported Israel. He defended Israel often. And he is not alone. And here's a scoop for people who haven't heard it yet. He has an unpublished book that he was pretty much finished writing. It was called Stop in the Name of God. And that means that he recognized the importance of the Sabbath. That Sabbath, which is a commandment in the 10 Commandments, that we must stop for 1 day a week, remember God, remember that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th, and commanded us, all of us, to work and build this world, be a partner in God all week long, but on the 7th day we must rest. And that is something that Charlie embraced with his family, and it is something that people who recognize that and who will find this book, and it is certainly going to be a bestseller even before it's been published. Those people who will read that book hopefully will recognize that value, and in memory of Charlie Kirk also, but not necessarily, but really in honor of what God has created, this beautiful world that He's created. They also will join us in being the Sabbath observers who rest on the Sabbath day in honor of God.
It's amazing what he achieved. He was a college dropout. He didn't really have connections, but he achieved so much in his life that in the end, it was the President of the United States that announced his death. J.D. Vance was the one that was walking next to his coffin. Benjamin Netanyahu said something about him, and even the mayor of Netanya is saying they're going to name one of their city squares after him. He really was very, very popular.
That's right, and that only teaches us that we must try our best to do what we think is right, and pray that God assists us in doing what we can. And that is truly the American dream, that we dream of something and we try to do it and we succeed. And that is another value that Charlie Kirk, with God's help, has taught us.
Do we need more Charlie Kirks advocating for Israel?
Absolutely. But we don't need only Charlie Kirks. We need also Joe Smiths and Jane Jones, and I don't know who else is listening. Even as small as you might think you are, as it says in the Bible, you are chosen by God. And whatever you can do, stand up for what is right and stand up to support God's chosen people. And God didn't choose the Jewish people in order to be better than anybody else. He chose the Jewish people in order to be representatives of God in this land. And as so many of my Christian friends recognize that they are to be grafted into the Jewish people, they must be grafted into the Jewish people to be an honorable spokesperson for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We believe in the same God. And that, amongst many other things, is something that all of your listeners must try to figure out, not say somebody else can do it, but what can I do to really present God as best as he can be presented in his world.
What is your prayer for his family today?
My prayer for his family is that they will have other friends that they already know and that they do not yet know who will support them, and that they do not suffer anymore, and that they recognize that so many people who have stood by their father and husband and son, I'm sure, and brother and sister. I'm sure he had brothers and sisters, and if not biological ones, then millions of people who felt a kindred spirit with him are standing by him to this day, and even more so. So let me pray for his family. Let us all pray for his family, that they will continue to be strong, and let us pray for God's world, that the values that Charlie upheld and personalized will continue to be even stronger in our time. Amen.
For those people who can't come to this event on the Temple Mount but can watch it online, how can they watch this?
You should go to that Beyadenu, Beydenu. I do believe that that's how it's spelt. But don't worry, Google knows that we all misspell things, so just look at Beyadenu or the Temple Mount in our... If you look up the Temple Mount in our hands, you are going to find the famous quote that the Israeli general said when he liberated the Temple Mount in 1967. That's why it is called Beyadenu. But look for beyadenu.org, and hopefully you'll spell it right, and you will be able to find it. And if you can't, then just look for me, Gidon Ariel. I'm at Root Source, and reach out to me and I will help you find it. And it's going to be broadcast live at 6:30 a.m. We'll be starting New York time, 1:30 p.m. Israel time. So what does that mean in Britain time?
11:30.
11:30 a.m. So that should be easy enough, and we're really going to only probably get up to the Temple Mount itself closer to about noon British time. But in any case, it will be recorded. You'll be able to see it afterwards. But please join us on the website. Maybe it'll be broadcast live on YouTube. I'm not sure yet, but I hope to see you then. And in any case, reach out to me. I always love, as you know, to make friends. Reach out to me at Gidon Ariel at root-source.com. Or just look for me on Google or on Facebook, Gidon Ariel in Israel.
Well, Gidon, thank you very much for sharing today.
And thank you very much for hosting me today. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.